And the rest of it was going by what I had always written about Armand, you know, going deeper into his life in Russia. He was kidnapped as a boy, taken to Constantinople, Istanbul, actually.
Istanbul was Constantinople. Now it's Istanbul, not Constantinople. Hope everyone's having a lovely day. I'm here to do another reaction video to an Anne Rice interview with Charlie Rose. This one is from 1998. Sweet baby Ashley was in college at that point in a very unhealthy relationship. And Anne is on Charlie Rose to talk about The Vampire Armand, the novel, which I was breathlessly waiting for. When that announcement came, I was real fucked up about Armand going into the sun at the end of Memnoch. That character, you know, he's just lovable, likable, hot. I don't know. Armand's really complicated, and I have complicated feelings about Armand, and even more complicated now because he's so fucking hot in the new series. So, you know, on we go, onwards and upwards. It's a book I was really excited to read. I was really excited for it to come out. I think Joel and I probably met within the next year or so. Fantastic. All right, so let's get rolling with this interview and see what we have to say about it.
There are few who can write a book about vampires as well as Anne Rice. She has been credited with single-handedly reviving supernatural fiction. She wrote her first novel, Interview with a Vampire, in 1976. Today, her 20 novels have sold more than 100.
We're up to 20 now. So after Violin, Memnoch came out, yeah? Did it come out before that?
100 million copies worldwide. Over the years, she's explored ghosts and witches as well as blood drinkers. Her new book, The Vampire Armand, returns to where she began. It is the sixth book in her hugely popular series, The Vampire Chronicles. I am pleased to have her here to talk about whatever we'll talk about.
Charlie acknowledging that their interviews frequently go off the rails a bit.
Welcome back to the broadcast.
Thank you. I'm glad
How many
to be
times
here.
have you been on this show?
I don't know. At least 4 or 5.
Oh, no,
whatever
more than
that means.
No, it's
more than that, maybe
I
6.
would think more, maybe.
Yeah, probably so. It's always a pleasure. I always love it.
Well, I do too. At long last, we're going to give Armand his due, aren't we? Just when we thought he was burned to death,
yes,
he comes back.
Yes. It was very important for me to go back to him, and going back to him was like going back to the beginning because he's been in all of the novels, except maybe for one. He's appeared in them.
But not as a major character.
Not as a major character, but as a major influence on the plot, usually.
She just said he's in all of the novels up to that point, except for maybe one. And that although and then Charlie interjects, he's not a major character. And she says, not a major character, but he has a major impact on the plot, which is very much Armand. And the way he interferes and participates in our other vampires' lives is definitely something that drives the plot along. Conflict with other vampires, love affairs with other vampires. He knows and holds a lot of the history of the vampires. So, yeah.
Or very much an antagonist of Lestat. Or
an antagonist of Lestat.
Somebody that seems really evil but enigmatic at the same time.
Enigmatic.
And I really loved going back, gathering all the material in the other novels that I had done on him and exploring that, you know, like having that discipline of what had already been said.
Oh, that's really smart. So nothing annoys me more than when I'm watching a show. I'll use Friends as a really good example. And they don't have anyone on set that's keeping up with the lore that they've established, right? They don't have like a show Bible that has all the information of all the fucking shit that's already happened to the characters, when their birthdays are. Rachel had like 3 different birthdays, and I think that Ross was like 2 or 3 different ages. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. If you're putting that much time into creating a show or a book series, I think the integrity of continuity is really important. I don't want to spend all this fucking time reading hours and hours and days of your book and find out that you didn't even pay attention to what you wrote in the first place. So you have characters acting wildly out of character. You have established things that now don't exist. That drives me bananas. Like accidentally retconning shit. No, not a fan. Have someone who works for you, who knows everything about the fucking project that you're working on. You know, that's just, to me, that's due diligence. Also, if anyone needs anyone to do this for Stephen King or for Anne Rice, we would love to sign up. Well, I'm speaking for Joel, but I would love to sign up.
I couldn't contradict anything. Yet I had to make a coherent life within that structure.
Lestat is your favorite.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm in love with Lestat. I mean, Lestat's my male alter ego, my supernatural alter ego.
So if we know something about Lestat, what do we know about you, in a sense?
Okay, so at this point, they're talking about Lestat, and he's her favorite, she says, and he's her male alter ego, her supernatural alter ego. And Charlie's asking, what, if we know something about Lestat, what do we know about you? And so I'm very interested to see what she has to say about this. I think it's very obvious, her love for Lestat. I think that I don't think she really knew him yet when she wrote Interview, you know? I think she was inhabiting the grief of Louis. And so when she digs in and starts to hear Lestat's voice, when he starts speaking to her, you can tell immediately that something's different. He's just electric under her pen, and I love it.
What does that say about you, that he is your alter ego?
Well, most of my life I've lived in my dreams, in my imagination, and in books. I haven't been a person of action like Lestat is. I haven't been a romping hero the way I think Lestat is. And when I write in Lestat's voice, or even in Armand's, I can write through somebody who's having many more adventures than I will ever have. But I think that's the point of view of my kind of fiction. You provide for yourself what you're providing for the reader. An imaginative world where people can behave in a highly heroic or demonic fashion.
So she loves that they can be highly heroic or highly demonic. And I think that really speaks to some of the more unsavory parts of our vampires that we don't love as much. You know, we don't love inappropriate relationships with children. We don't love that. And that is a thing with Marius in particular, you know. And there are some things that give us the ick, for sure. And there are some things that are straight up just like, what the fuck, Anne? What the actual fuck? But it makes sense when you consider that she's taking them to that next level. She's taking them to that nth degree. Like the good, the bad, the evil, the love, the passion, you know? It's all so fucking heightened. And that's why we get huge blowout fights like we got in 1-5, you know, even though we learned it wasn't quite exactly that. It was even worse in second season. But I think you can see kind of how we're developing into these scenes in the show that are harder for us to watch, a little harder for us to consume as a viewer, that are frightening and a reminder that these characters are in fact quite monstrous, you know.
It's very important to me to enter that world over and over again. And it's very important to me to try to offer to my readers something that will really take them out of ordinary life. And I hope they'll be enhanced when they come out of it.
You wrote this in a blaze of spontaneity.
Right.
You didn't sit out and try to outline this, and you didn't carefully structure this. You just went to work.
I'll tell you what had happened. I had outlined it over and over again for 3 years, and I threw that outline out. On December 1st, I went in and said, I've got to do this book. I've got to face Armand. I've got to face again the challenge of writing something that's a bang-up vampire story and absolutely transcends it. You know, it's got to transcend the horror genre. It's got to be more than entertainment, or life is not worth it for me, or I've failed life. And I sat there and wrote from December 1st to January 6th when it reached its conclusion.
Hey, she finished the Vampire Armand on January 6th, which is my hubby's birthday. She said she wrote Violin in like a month, and this is just a little bit over a month, December 1 to Jan 6. She writes. It seems like she writes like a demon possessed, you know, like it can't quite stop coming out of the pen, you know. I love that. I think you can tell that too in the writing of it. And she says she wants it to transcend the horror genre, which, I mean, I think that's, you know, a wonderful goal for it to be more than just a splatter scare on the page, of course, you know. And I love horror. It is a genre that I fucking love as a person, as a human being. I love being afraid. I love being allowed to be afraid and know that I'm not in danger. I like it. I always have. So it's an emotion that we don't want to explore in our own lives, in real life. So the only way for us to truly kind of delve in and dive into horror is to read, watch a movie. You know what I mean? And so, I think that's one of the reasons why so many of us are drawn to the horror genre. It's a safe place to have a bad experience, you know? I think it's the same sort of thing with true crime. You know, those of us that are really, I mean, I've been into true crime since I was a kid. I was obsessed with the Kennedy assassination when JFK came out. You know, a little ADHD, a little, you know, hyperfixation party of Ashley over here. And I was obsessed with, I read Helter Skelter when I was like 13. So yeah, so I kind of have this macabre sort of brain working in my skull anyway. So I love that she wants to give me more as a reader. She wants to give it more depth than just a scare on the screen, because that's what I want. I want to feel all the emotions that come along with being afraid, frightened, horrified, grossed out.
The only thing I knew about it at the beginning is that Armand would become very close to two mortals, Sibel and Benji.
She mentioned Sibel in the violin interview about a piano player, but she hadn't met her yet, basically.
That was all I really knew, and I had a vague idea of who they were. And the rest of it was going by what I had always written about Armand, you know, going deeper into his life in Russia. He was kidnapped as a boy, taken to Constantinople, Istanbul, actually.
Istanbul was Constantinople. Now it's Istanbul, not Constantinople.
And he was sold to Venice, to a brothel. And then I had Renaissance Venice to write about, which I loved. And I kept the characters there. Is it Venice you love
or Florence most?
It's both, actually. It's both for entirely different reasons. But in the book...
I know Anne's rich as fuck. I am so envious of her travel experiences, because it does seem like she's very, very inspired by the places she's visited, the places she's lived. I mean, we see the love she has for New Orleans in so many places and so many books, but it's nice to see, you know, how San Francisco inspired her, how Florence inspired her. And for those of us that love travel is such an inspiration, and it's such a killer of like your preconceived notions of things. Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit.
Book, they actually go to Florence for a few nights just to see all these wonderful things like the monastery of San Marco. And I went back to Florence as soon as I finished the book. Within days, I left.
Why did you do that?
I wanted to check certain things. I had not gone to the monastery of San Marco before, but I described it in Armand, and I wanted to walk through it myself. And I had no idea what a well-developed museum it is, and how spectacular it is to see Fra Angelico's painting. But I went there just to do that, and I saw all kinds of other things that I wanted to see, and then came home and immediately wrote a sort of Italian romance of a vampire novel.
Thank you. So, just said she described places and she wanted to go back to Florence and experience them, so she knew she fucking described them right. Thanks, Anne.
Vittorio the Vampire, which will come out this spring, right. And it's my Romeo and Juliet, if I have one, of the vampires. And they're not vampires connected with any of the others, but they fit the cosmology. And again, trying to transcend, always trying to transcend. I mean, I don't want to just be a popular writer.
You want to be what?
I want to be a great writer.
I don't want to be just a popular writer. I want to be a great writer. And you are a great writer. A great writer. And we thank you so much. My God, you're so missed.
You think you have a chance?
I don't know. I can't possibly judge that. I know I give it everything that I can. I don't hold back, fearing that I'll make a fool of myself.
But do you believe that you are, or do you believe you have the chance to be? You can get there.
I honestly don't believe. I think I may have the chance. I don't know whether or not I am. I really don't. Only the world can decide that.
And is anything you can do to make, I mean, what can you do to accelerate or to make it happen? I mean, can you do anything other than continue to work and to try to make it better?
Not really. I mean, you just have to take every dare. Just when you want to think, oh, I can't get away with this, but I really want to write it, that's the time to write it.
You have to take every dare, she said. Just when you think, oh, I can't write this, that's when you have to write it. And I think that's how we get some of the more shocking scenes, like Lestat drinking menstrual blood in Memnoch.
Take the dare. Don't listen to cynicism. Don't listen to anybody who's trying to stop you or wants you to be safe.
Well, what if I said to you, what you should do is get away from writing about the things that you know and you're comfortable with and stretch your wings?
I have. I have, and it hasn't worked too well.
I know. Why is that?
I don't know.
Well, because you've developed a worldwide readership that expects you to write about vampires. And they love your characters, too.
And some of the books that I consider not to be so successful, they also love. I mean, there's always somebody walking up and saying, I really love Feast of All Saints. Well, I wrote that years ago. It was a complete flop, and I felt very bad afterwards. I never ceased to believe in it, but I just thought it doesn't work as a novel where all these people would dislike it. Well, right now, I mean, lots of people read that book and talk to me about it and tell me it's their favorite.
Are you popular around the world? I mean, people that buy your books in Japan?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very fortunate in that regard.
Russia?
Russia. Well,
Turkey.
I think they do in Czechoslovakia, and they do in Poland, so I guess we're creeping into Russia.
Well, you'll get there soon enough.
Yeah, right.
Now, how about Africa?
No, I don't.
They're just touching on kind of her worldwide reach.
I don't think we have any African contracts, but I could be wrong, because we're translated, with each book has so many translations, just maybe 11 different languages, 12, maybe 15, I'm not sure. I know we are in Iceland, and I know we are in Israel.
She said the books are translated into, 11 to 15 different languages, from Icelandic to...
You write with a manic intensity, and then when you finish, you go on these binges.
Well,
I don't mean eating binges, but I mean, it's a little bit of a chocolate thing there. But
oh, well, a little bit of that. But lately, the first thing that happened after Armand is I couldn't go to sleep for 3 days. And then we left for Florence.
Having stayed up most of the past 6 weeks.
Right, exactly. And then we took off for Florence, so there was immense stimulation. The whole trip was structured. We visited people in the evening in their houses. We went to fabulous villas out in the country. We went to with art critics all through the Uffizi. And I'd been there 3 times before. All this was to get the max out of it, and so that I could continue using Italy as an important and vital sort of setting in my novels, as well as New Orleans.
This book ranges from Constantinople to, and from Russia and Constantinople all the way to New Orleans today,
That's right.
Present New Orleans.
That's right, it does. And also Kiev, Rus,
right.
in the time of the Mongols, is very important in this book. And I didn't get to go there. I wish I had. But I'm afraid of the fallout from Chernobyl.
You are?
Mainly for my companion.
Oh! She just mentioned that she didn't go to Kiev, and that she wished she had been able to, but she was afraid of the fallout from Chernobyl. Yeah, Chernobyl. We've lived a lot of life, y'all. But he kind of talked about how she sort of writes with a manic passion, and then after she's finished writing, that tends to be this kind of like weird sort of like binging period for her, where she either jumps into some travel or some luxury experiences and things like that.
If I was alone, I'd go myself, but I can't see dragging a bunch of people with me, and we always travel in a group.
What do you fear the most?
What I fear the most?
Yes. What do you fear the most?
Other than nuclear fallout.
If I told you what I feared, really, let me see if I can really answer that question. What I fear is that the aliens that we read so much about are real. And they're going to come down here, and they're not going to be any nicer to us than the Spanish were to Cortez. Not to Cortez, to Montezuma.
And Spears, alien colonizers.
Then we treated everybody when we came to
aliens that we read about are real. And when they come here, they're not going to be very nice to us.
Are you serious?
Fair enough.
You take the dare and people think you're crazy.
No, I'm not asking you.
Of course I'm serious.
just asking.
I read all these accounts of
aliens.
alien abductions. I read the first-person accounts. They're very convincing. These people, and when they come on television, they're clearly, see, you're laughing, but this...
No, but I'm serious. I'm serious. I'm taking you seriously. Please.
Okay, we got to talk about alien abductions because it's fucking terrifying. I think anybody that grew up in the 80s and 90s, I was born in 79, so I was a small child in the 80s and then a teenager in the 90s. So we had Unsolved Mysteries. And to me, the most fucking frightening thing in Unsolved Mysteries was the missing time episodes. And those were always about like alien abduction, like people that were like, I just lost 2 hours of my life. I have no idea what fucking happened. I was standing here, looked at my watch, looked at my watch, and 3 hours had passed, and I have no fucking clue what happened. And the implication is always that they slowly remember these alien abductions. So this is a very timely feeling Anne has, I've got to say. I think that a lot of people during that time period probably worried a little bit more about aliens than we would like to admit. At least people my age. Also, that fucking terrifying movie Fire in the Sky came out. Whew, that trailer alone gave me nightmares for weeks.
Please, because I want you to hear more
Okay.
about this.
Okay. And then there's one other thing I'm afraid of.
What's that?
Death.
Well, we all ought to be afraid
Yeah.
of death.
Yeah, some people aren't, but
No.
some people
Well,
escape that fear for a
It's
while.
not so much fear, but there's so many great things to do.
She says she's afraid of death. Last interview, she said she wasn't afraid of death anymore. I just watched that.
You know.
Yeah, there's so many.
You know what I
things
would
to do.
fear most?
What?
Prolonged incapacity.
Oh, that would be horrible, wouldn't it? That would be absolutely horrible. And
Prolonged incapacity is what Charlie Rose just said he fears. I fear that. I would hate that. I would hate that very much. I would hate to be dementia is such a fucking hard thing to deal with, and to see someone kind of their memories and their self as you know them, their awareness of you as a person changes so much. It's such a difficult thing to go through on any side of it. I just can't imagine. I would hate to feel so trapped. And you probably don't even know, but it's the anticipation of that, the fear of that, the like when you get a diagnosis like that, knowing that that's going to be slowly happening to you over time. That's fucking terrifying to me.
of course, we see that happening around us all the time as great uncles and aunts get strokes and things like that. You know, and you see it and you think,
Oh,
when
strokes!
that
I didn't even
happens to
think
me, I
about
hope
that.
I go like that. You know.
If I wanted to torture you, what would I do?
I'm not going to tell you that. There's a simple answer, but I'm not telling you.
Oh, there's one thing that would do it for
yes.
you?
Oh God, I would be.
If I wanted to torture you, what would I do?
You'd tell me everything, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but I'm not telling you what it is.
Oh, give me a hint.
Cockroaches, lots of them.
Are you serious?
I've told you something I shouldn't have told you.
A little cockroach
Anne's
coming
afraid of cockroaches.
Charlie, please.
inside your jacket. That little
Back, stop.
cockroach.
See,
would
I
do
knew
it.
you'd do this. Did you read 1984 Orwell's book? Remember when they got him with the rats?
These two have some wicked little chemistry. It's a little flirty even. Just then they were like smacking hands, and that's cute. I don't hate it.
There's never a cockroach on the set, and he's going to come get you with him. And you'll probably have a cockroach next time I come, and I'll go crazy through that curtain.
You can count on a little cockroach.
No, I'm not counting on it. Oh, God.
Why cockroaches?
I don't know. They're horrible little things.
They live forever.
Oh, talk about them. Yeah, right,
listen,
they do.
you can't even nuke them. They survive.
I've often thought about that fact, you know. Oh, God, there are horrible little details about them. You just don't want to
how
She's
about
know.
like,
snakes?
please stop talking
No,
about
no,
them.
No problem. Love snakes.
Put them around my arms
Survivors.
down in South Beach
Yeah.
and Miami Beach.
yeah.
People are holding them, and they'll take your picture with them. I love them.
Oh, you love that?
Yeah, put them all around me.
But put a cockroach on you.
Oh, you wouldn't have time to take a picture. And it wouldn't be a good one. It would just be somebody's skirts disappearing out.
Anne likes to party with snakes in South Florida. Bet. I do not like to party with snakes. Here in Arkansas, we have so many venomous snakes. It's horrifying.
A door.
So if those little aliens that you've been talking about want to get you,
Back to Men in Black.
want to get you, I can see it
Yeah.
now. They could just sort of flop down onto New Orleans.
Well, in
There's
the
a knock at your door.
In the abduction accounts, they don't use cockroaches, so I've been safe so far.
You think there's life out there?
Oh, yeah.
In other words,
I think there probably
there is,
is.
as they say, intelligent life
Yeah.
other than this planet.
Yeah, and I think that Christianity could be out there too. I don't think religion should panic when they face this question: is there life out there?
Okay, Charlie poses a great question, which is, do you think there is intelligent life out there? What do you think? I think that we'd be pretty silly to think we're the only things out in this world. It's a big, big universe, you know, and we're seeing more of it all the time and learning more about it all the time. We're finding planets that are habitable by our standards, throughout the multiple galaxies we've been able to explore now. So yeah, I think there's probably something out there. I hope I don't get abducted.
There, I think any worldview that's well developed could extend to these planets as well.
Yeah.
In fact, I read something, the Book of Urantia, in which Christ went to all the planets, and only on a few was he crucified.
She just mentioned something called the Book of Urantia, where Christ went to multiple planets, and he was not crucified on all of them.
What was the difference?
I don't know.
if
They
that
didn't
book is
tell
for
us.
me.
It's a big book. It's about that
You read
big.
a lot?
Yes, I do. I read nonfiction. I read alien accounts. I read near-death experiences, and I read history. Just tons of history.
So,
Anne says she reads a lot. Nonfiction, alien accounts, near-death experiences, and history.
near-death experiences, that intrigues you too.
Very much, yeah.
I mean, all these things tie together, don't they? I mean,
Yeah, they
death
do.
and then aliens and...
I am very interested in near-death experiences too. I've dealt with a lot of death in my life. My dad passed away when I was 22, and I'm very interested in near-death experiences. What people say they saw or heard or did. I personally had not a near-death experience, like it was not that serious, but I did get caught in the undertow one time when I was in Florida on vacation, and I was swimming and swimming and swimming, and I was so fucking tired that I thought to myself, I think I just want to stop swimming. And then that sat in my head for like 5 seconds, and I was like, you dumb bitch, if you stop swimming, you're gonna fucking die, so you best keep fucking swimming. And I did. But yeah, I find all that very interesting. I love history. I read a lot of nonfiction. I read a lot of like historical accounts. I'm pretty obsessed with 9/11. Just, as a historical event, and I love to hear people's 9/11 stories. So I read a lot of books about that, as well as, like, again, I said I was obsessed with the Kennedy assassination. That had a big resurgence recently, with the most recent anniversary of the assassination. So I got very back into it hardcore.
I mean, my books have to come from an obsession, no doubt about it. And I hope that's the best way to write.
Is this cover do you have anything to do with this cover?
Vicki Wilson came up with that cover.
Yeah.
She's my editor, and she really scores with the
We
covers.
like Vicki, don't we?
Yeah, I love Vicki.
Especially after we...
Once again, the only thing Anne allows her editor to do is choose the art for the covers of the books. And we always love her work. We do. They're beautiful. Like the covers that came out when Armand was released and Memnoch, and they're all so beautiful. Violin is another one that has a really beautiful cover.
Maligned editors.
Yes.
So we have to.
No, I really adore
we have to be
her.
good to Vicki
I really
now,
adore
don't
her.
we?
She's a close friend. I love her.
Really?
Yeah, she's been with 20 years. We've been together. She published an
But you
interview
don't
with
let her touch a word. That's
No.
Oh, wow. She's with the same editor she's been with since Interview. That's very interesting.
No, I don't.
You love her, but you don't trust her judgment.
I don't trust anybody.
So why do you have this passage in here? Jesus speaking to Mary Magdalene. Jesus saith unto her, touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father. But go to my brethren and say unto them, I ascend unto my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God.
It's a complex reason. It has to do with Armand's religious journey from the Monastery of the Caves in Kiev all the way through the Renaissance, where he had almost a religious humanism, into modern times. It really just resonates with that. And also, I don't know what it means.
She talks a little bit just then about Armand's religious journey, which is huge, and it's a very important part. When Joel and I read this book, Joel talked a lot about the iconography being something that really resonated with him. I'm not religious. I was actually raised kind of without religion, which was thanks, Dad. I really appreciate it because it allowed me to learn about things with kind of clear eyes. I didn't have to fight against any of my like preconceived or pre-taught notions about religion and things like that. So yeah, it's not necessarily something that resonates with me because of like my personal experience with religion, but a natural interest in religion. And it's the same reason why I thought Memnoch the Devil was such a fucking wild journey, because it's so interesting to me to explore different facets of faith and spirituality and religion, without having to, participate in it.
If you could live in history as any character, who would it be?
Oh, Peter the Great or Louis the 14th.
You like conquerors, do you?
It's cold in France. It's cold in Russia. They don't have them.
She just had the quickest answer for, if you could live as any person in history, who would you be? And she said, Peter the Great or Louis the 14th. so fast.
Anne Rice, the Vampire Armand. At long last, he gets his book. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie. You were charming.
We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Well, so now we know Anne's greatest fears: aliens, cockroaches. New Orleans is a pretty wild place to live if you're really bugged by bugs. That was great. I love, that's a shorter interview. It was only about 13 minutes. But I loved getting a little bit more insight always into the way her mind works. And I love hearing about any writer that I respect. I love hearing about their process. I find that so fascinating, so exciting. It's like you're like kind of getting a little secret from inside their brain. I really love that. Always, she speaks so fondly of the character she's created. I think that, it's like when you're an actor and if you're playing a crazy character or an evil character, like you have to play it as though the character doesn't think that. That's the perception other people have of the character. And that's kind of the way that she writes for her vampires. She writes them she writes them like she's them, and so they don't know what the perception of them is. I mean, they have some idea of it, but they don't know that everybody thinks they're a fucking murder gremlin or an asshole or whatever, and they don't, they're talking about their experiences from their perspective, and it just, when you approach it that way instead of like some ham-handed like scenery chewing like fucking evil monster, you miss a lot of the depth that we get in her writing and with her characters. So that was fun to delve into some of her thoughts about the Vampire Armand. Joel will be back, I'm sure, with another reaction soon, and if not, I will be following up as well. You guys be sure to check out our new merch. We're so excited. We have some fun new stuff. We're going to be launching our book club episodes. Going to do about 5 parts, I think Joel said, of the Vampire Lestat. So get out your Kindles or your Audible accounts or your e-readers or your hardbacks or paperbacks, and let's dive into our favorite brat prince once more. Until next time, I've been Ashley from the Articulate Coven. Thanks so much.